Passin Me By the Pharcyde is a classic song, and today I'm breaking this one all the way down. We'll get into the scene surrounding the Pharcyde, break down the beat, the storytelling, and see how there are two full circle moments in this song. Now, before we start, I have to tell you there are two versions of this video. Over on Patreon, the video is longer, better, there's more music, and it's uncensored. Here on YouTube, it's a little shorter, especially the music examples, and there's a few other things that don't make the cut for YouTube. When you think of early 90s LA hip-hop, you probably think of Gangsta Rap. NWA had released the album Straight Outta Compton in 1988, their follow-up in 1991, and by the early and mid-90s, the West Coast was beginning to rise in national recognition. In my video on the native tongues, we compared NWA's Straight Outta Compton and the Jungle Brothers' Straight Out the Jungle, which were released just a few months apart.
Educated man from the motherland. You see, they call me a star, but that's not what I am. Straight out of Compton, crazy mother named Ice Cube from the gang called with attitude.
We contrasted not only the stylistic differences in the music, but also the subject matter. So by the time we get to 1992, on the East Coast, in the native tongue scene, we have albums like Queen Latifah's All Hail the Queen.
The ladies will kick it, the rhyme it is wicked. Those that don't know how to be pros get a
De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising.
Mirror, mirror.
And The Low End Theory by A Tribe Called Quest.
Back in the days on the boulevard, I landed.
But over on the West Coast, we've got stuff like Ice Cube's America's Most Wanted.
I heard payback's a mother. That's why I'm sick of getting treated like a
Ice-T's OG Original Gangster.
10 years ago, I used to listen to rappers flow.
And DJ Quick's Quick is the Name.
A day in the life of a player named Quick. I'm just a...
So in 1992, amidst this West Coast sound comes a group out of LA called the Pharcyde. And as member Slim Kid Trey described, quote, "We were just considered some goofy guys."
Now in my younger days, I used to sport a shame.
In November of 1992, the Pharcyde released Bizarre Ride to the Pharcyde, which isn't so much a reaction to the West Coast gangsta rap sound that LA was associated with, but there are two full circle moments with this song in each of these respective scenes. This entire album is great. It's fun, a little lighter, it's got humorous lyrics, it's got more of a native tongues vibe to it overall. But today I want to focus specifically on the song Passin Me By. This was the second single from the album and the group's biggest hit. Let's start by diving into the production. Passin Me By was produced by Jay Swift, but without several other people, this song wouldn't be what it is. For one, there's the band's manager, Reggie Andrews, who was a jazz musician and producer in his own right. He had a collection of old jazz records in his garage that he let the group dig through. As Slim Kid Trey recalled, "I remember Passin Me By was supposed to be two separate songs that were later made into one. We had two different samples we were going to use. But the two parts just fit together so well, we combined them into one song. It was our musical peanut butter cup." Initially, Jay Swift didn't want to combine them, but member Booty Brown suggested they try it, and the rest is history. The two samples in question are, well, let's just pull up my recreation. The first sample here is Summer in the City by Quincy Jones from 1973. Here is the original section sample, this one right here. And here it is sped and pitched up and looped just below that. You can also see I've got a compressor and EQ on here. If you're a member of the producers tier on Patreon, you can download this exact recreation file for Ableton. The other sample in question is Hill Where the Lord Hides by Eddie Russ from 1974. So here, this track is the whole song, and these two sections are what they pulled. But let's listen to the first one and then the second one. It's the first one. The second. So now what they've done, they've slowed it down and pitched it down, and then also reversed the order of it. So here that is. Again, I've got EQ and compressor on there. The reason Jay Swift was hesitant to put these together is because they're in different keys. The pitched Quincy hook is in B flat minor, basically, and the pitched Eddie Russ is in A flat minor. These make up the verses and the chorus, respectively, and even though they're different, it works. These are not the only samples in here, however. We've also got drums from the group Skull Snaps in there. And then here that is slowed down and looped. We've got a bass line from Weather Report all the way here 5 minutes in. That has been taken and slowed down and then looped to be this. And the very first thing you hear at the beginning of Passin Me By, that is actually a Jimi Hendrix sample. Check us out. There are a few other layers of brief samples in there, but these are the main sections. Here's the verse. And the chorus. A musical peanut butter cup, indeed. Now, if you're a producer who wants to make stuff like this yourself, you gotta check out Tracklib. They're sponsoring this video, so let me show you how this works. Tracklib is an online record store specifically for sampling. They have a library of over 100,000 songs from all decades and genres. You can find loops and parts to sample before you download them, but Tracklib also just announced Sounds, a huge library of royalty-free sounds. So all your sound needs are in one subscription. Let's check this out together. Here's Tracklib. You've seen me sort through records here before, but let me go here to Sounds. I got all these sound packs here. You know what? The Pharcyde used that Quincy sample, which has an organ at the top, so let's find an organ sound we can make something with. Like it? I love that. We got one-shot drum kits on here. I'm gonna use some credits and download these. With Tracklib's new sounds, they're all royalty-free, so there's no clearance required to release your music commercially. They've got a ton of individual sounds from a bunch of well-reputable names, and sounds are part of combined subscriptions, so you still get access to their massive library of songs. Sign up for a free trial and you get 100 credits to download Sounds for free on Tracklib. Check the link in the description. So after the beat for Passin Me By was made, the group felt great about it. Fatlip sang the hook on the chorus, and each MC set out to write their own verse on it. They did this by looping the beat for several hours while they each picked a corner of the room to write it. Each MC, Booty Brown, Slim Kid Trey, Imani, and Fatlip, took a verse telling stories of unrequited crushes, with the chorus in between each, "She keeps on passing me by." This beat and the lyrics are very different from the more popular gangsta rap coming out of LA, not to mention their higher voices and their overall vibe. But this song, which was the second single from Bizarre Ride, exploded, hitting number 52 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on the Hot Rap Songs chart. But more than that, there are full circle moments that came out of this. The first is connecting with the native tongue scene. The native tongues have an obvious influence on the Pharcyde, and one day, as Fatlip recalled, we all lived in one house, and one day we get this call, and for like 10 minutes, it was two people just screaming, "We love Pharcyde." They're singing the lyrics and quoting the skits, and we're like, seriously, who is this? And it was Fife and Q-Tip. Getting that kind of validation is insane, especially when you're on the other side of the country. I mean, on the far side, you might say, surrounded by a different scene entirely. This song had a further impact, though, as it's been sampled and quoted many times in songs since. For instance, the double take remix of the song Stutter by Joe featuring Mystical.
Talk to me, tell me.
That's a musical sample, but there are plenty of other lyrical interpolations as well, like Common on Like They Used to Say.
The letter came back 3 days later, returned to sender. The letter came back 3 days later, returned to sender.
So the Pharcyde is this group of self-proclaimed goofy guys doing their own thing in LA, leaning more native tongues than gangsta rap. But they weren't reacting to gangsta rap and running the opposite direction. As J Swift said, NWA was having such a huge impact on the world, so people thought we were trying to throw a finger up to them, but we loved what they were doing. We just weren't afraid to represent the other side of West Coast hip-hop. We were b-boys, brought up on A Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul. I'm thankful we were able to change the stigma out here. Bizarre Ride was released on November of 1992, and just a month later, Dr. Dre would release his debut solo album, The Chronic, which would begin another round of classic West Coast gangsta rap albums. But on Dr. Dre's next album, 2001, we get our other full circle moment.
Now in my younger days I used to
my younger days, I used to sport a rag. Back
When I went to school, I carry lunch in a bag.
backpack full of cans plus a 4-4 mag.
Validation from the East Coast native tongue scene, and a lyrical nod from the West Coast gangsta rap scene. Of course, the Pharcyde wasn't the only non-gangsta rap hip-hop on the West Coast. Take, for instance, just up the coast of California, the Souls of Mischief. Their hit 93 Till Infinity is a forever classic, and there are a few different reasons for that, but that's already in this other video right here, so click here to watch that.